Hello there. Today I'm going to introduce you to some of the most terrifying and infamous haunted objects in the world. First, Busby's chair. The famous wooden chair cursed with death, known as Busby's chair. Many believe that anyone who sits in this chair will soon meet their death. And the story begins over 300 years ago. In the early 18th century, around 1700, in the village of Kirby Whiskey in North Yorkshire, England, there lived a man named Thomas Busby. He was notorious for being a drunkard and a troublemaker. Busby lived near an older man named Daniel Oddie. Daniel's profession was counterfeiting money. Illegal work, but profitable. One day, Busby discovered this secret, and Daniel invited him to cooperate. The agreement was quickly accepted, and from then on, they became partners in crime. Daniel had a daughter, and over time working together, Busby fell in love with her. The two married, but the marriage was far from peaceful. Busby was a heavy drinker, and Daniel disliked his son-in-law. One day, when Busby returned home drunk, he found Daniel sitting and waiting in the room with an angry expression. The two argued fiercely, and Daniel accused Busby of treating his daughter poorly. The drunkenness combined with his hot temper made Busby lose control. What started as an argument quickly turned into a brawl. Daniel, being older, was knocked outside by Busby. He decided to leave and would talk properly the next day. But Busby had other thoughts. He went straight to Daniel's house that night, carrying a hammer, and murdered him on the spot. In 1702, Busby was arrested and sentenced to death. Before his execution, he had one final request: to have a drink at his favorite tavern. He sat down in the familiar wooden chair, drank it dry, then stood up, pointed at the chair, and said, "Anyone who sits here will die miserably." A few days later, Busby was hanged. From then on, many mysterious deaths occurred. A man sat in the chair and was murdered a few hours later. A builder sat drinking in this chair and fell from a roof to his death a few hours later. People estimate that over 60 lives have been claimed by the chair's curse. The tavern owner later decided to donate the chair to the Thirsk Museum, where it was hung up high so no one could accidentally sit in it again. However, some historians believe the chair was made around 1840, more than 100 years after Busby's execution. So the two things are unrelated, but strangely, fatal accidents still occurred after people sat in it. Some say that if it wasn't Busby, then certainly some other thing is ruling over this chair. Second, Robert the Doll. One of the world's most famous haunted dolls. On the surface, Robert wears a white sailor outfit and holds a small stuffed dog. But don't let that innocent appearance fool you. The story behind it is enough to make many people stay far away. Everything started in 1904 when a boy in Key West, Florida named Robert Eugene Otto, usually called Eugene or Otto, was given a doll bought from Germany by his grandfather. The boy loved it so much that he named it Robert, the same as his own name. From then on, the boy and the doll were practically inseparable, but then strange things began to happen. In the house, whenever something went wrong, furniture was disturbed, toys broke, objects fell and shattered, Otto would always say, "Robert did it." At first, the family thought he was just making excuses for fun, but then neighbors and friends also began to notice. A group of children once saw Robert the doll moving from one window to another when they passed by the house. Visitors even swore that the doll's facial expression changed depending on the story they were telling. According to oral tradition, at night people heard the sound of small footsteps and giggling coming from empty rooms. Some believed that some spirit, perhaps that of a servant in the house or another entity, had entered Robert. Otto kept the doll his entire life. Even as an adult, he still gave it its own room in his Gothic house. After Otto died in 1974, the new owner of the house also quickly sensed something abnormal. Robert the doll was blamed for causing the household to experience many misfortunes: illness, accidents, even separation. Finally, Robert was taken to the Fort East Martello Museum in Key West. But the spine-chilling stories didn't stop there. Museum staff receive hundreds of letters each year, all apologies sent to Robert. The writers say that after taking photos or joking in front of the doll, they immediately encountered trouble, lost jobs, car breakdowns, unexpected accidents. They believe that only by sincerely apologizing can they escape the bad luck. Today, Robert is displayed in a separate glass case with an unwritten rule: no photos without permission. And if you visit Key West, the advice is to respect Robert, or prepare mentally to receive a gift from this famous curse. Third, the Swansea Devil statue. The famous wooden statue from Wales known as the Swansea Devil. People also call it by another, more spine-chilling name, Old Nick, a folk term for the devil. And naturally, this statue comes with a curse that many believe has actually come true. The story begins around the 1890s in the port city of Swansea, Wales. At that time, there was an old, deteriorating church in the city center. The authorities and residents decided to demolish it and build a new church. They called upon all architects to submit their designs, with the most beautiful one being chosen for construction. Among the architects who submitted entries, the most prominent was Sir Arthur Blomfield, a very famous architect in England at the time. Unsurprisingly, his design was selected, but this infuriated a local architect who had also submitted a design. He believed his talent was being dismissed and his opportunity was being stolen. A few years later, when the new church had been completed, a row of houses right next to the church happened to go up for sale. The angry architect immediately bought them, demolished everything, and built a brewery there instead. On top of the brewery, he placed a wooden statue that he had carved himself, the face of a devil laughing mockingly, pointing straight toward the church. He even made a curse. When this church is destroyed and burned down, my statue will still sit here, smiling. And then, during World War II in 1941, Swansea was heavily bombed. The church was hit, severely damaged, and caught fire. But strangely, the wooden statue of that man remained completely unharmed, still standing defiantly looking toward the pile of ruins. For many people, this was proof that the curse had come true. After the war, the church was rebuilt according to Arthur Blomfield's original design. The brewery was torn down, and the statue disappeared for many years. Much later, a local collector happened to find it and brought it back to its old location. When the area was developed into the Quadrant Shopping Center, the owner decided to donate the statue to the Swansea Museum for display. Today, the Swansea Devil still sits there, one of the museum's most popular attractions. Many people come just to see with their own eyes the devil's face that once made an entire church bow down. Though science has never proven this curse, clearly, the story of the Swansea Devil has become an inseparable part of this city's folk culture. Fourth, Annabelle the Doll. If you've ever watched the Conjuring horror film series or Annabelle, you're probably familiar with the image of a porcelain doll with a cracked, haunting face. But in real life, Annabelle looks completely different. A cloth doll with red yarn hair, round black eyes, and an innocent smile, made after the Raggedy Ann comic character. However, behind that cute appearance is a story that makes many people lose sleep. In 1970, Donna, a young nursing student, was given this doll by her mother for her birthday. She brought Annabelle to her small apartment where she lived with her roommate named Angie. At first, everything was normal, but not long after, strange things began to happen. Donna said that whenever she and Angie left the doll in one place, when they returned, it was in a different position or location. Once they left Annabelle on the chair, then went out, and when they came back, it was lying neatly in the bed. Not only that, one day Donna found a small piece of paper in the apartment with "Help Me" written in scrawled handwriting, on a type of paper that neither of them used. Too frightened, Donna and Angie sought out a medium to talk with the doll. The medium said that inside Annabelle was the spirit of a little girl named Annabelle Higgins, who used to live on this land before the apartment complex was built. This spirit wanted to be loved and cared for, so it had bonded with the doll. It sounded harmless, but a series of subsequent events made both of them realize the truth wasn't that simple. Donna decided to seek help from the couple Ed and Lorraine Warren, two famous paranormal investigators. They quickly determined this wasn't a child's spirit, but an evil entity disguising itself to gain trust. If left near the doll for long, those in contact could be controlled by it or killed. The Warrens took Annabelle and placed it in a specialized glass case at their occult museum, along with a warning sign, "Absolutely do not open." Many visitors have mocked Annabelle and then had accidents just after leaving the museum. Today, the occult museum has closed and no one knows where Annabelle is. It might be right in your house. Fifth, the Hope Diamond. This stone weighs about 45.52 carats, has a rare deep blue color, and shows a slight purple tint under light. But beyond its mesmerizing beauty, it's also famous for a curse believed to have brought disaster to a series of owners for over 3 centuries. The story begins in 1653, when a French gem merchant named Jean-Baptiste Tavernier came to a diamond mine in India. There, he saw a huge blue diamond, said to be taken from a Hindu god statue. This stone was the eye of the statue, and taking it was a sacrilegious act that led to the curse. Tavernier still bought it and brought it back to France. Shortly after, he sold the stone to King Louis XIV, the Sun King. The king named it the Blue of France, but misfortune seemed to begin from there. Tavernier died of gangrene on his way back to India, while Louis XIV lost many relatives in the royal family. The later heir, King Louis XVI and Queen Marie Antoinette, also owned the stone. Their fate was to be beheaded during the French Revolution in 1793. After that, the diamond disappeared in the chaos, until it appeared in England in the early 19th century. Around 1830, the stone fell into the hands of the Hope family, a wealthy and powerful lineage, from which it got the name Hope Diamond. Through 4 generations, From Henry Philip Hope to Lord Francis Hope, this family gradually declined. Lord Francis's wife, actress May Yohei, after owning the stone, went through many broken marriages and died in poverty at the end of her life. In the early 20th century, the diamond was bought by wealthy newspaper publisher Edward Maclean. Just a few years later, he developed mental illness, his son died in a car accident, and his wife, Evelyn Maclean, contracted pneumonia and passed away. Finally, the diamond came into the hands of jewelry dealer Harry Winston. Unlike those before him, Winston didn't keep it long but donated it to the Smithsonian Institution in the U.S. in 1958. Today, the Hope Diamond is displayed at the Smithsonian Natural History Museum, becoming one of the most visited artifacts. Although science says its blue color is simply due to boron impurities, many visitors still shudder at the stone's blood-stained history.